Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Jill Scarson. I am the Academic Program Specialist for the University of Maryland's Information School, Library and Information Science program. I'm joined tonight by Dr. Beth St. Jean. She's an associate professor in the College of Information Studies at UMD's iSchool. Beth teaches classes in the BSIS, MLIS, and PhD programs, particularly focusing on assisting people with their needs for information. Beth's research aims to improve people's long-term health outlooks by exploring the important interrelationships between their health-related information behaviors, their health literacy, their health-related self-efficacy, and their health behaviors. Her most current research focuses on the concept of health justice, particularly aiming to identify the information-related causes of and potential solutions to health disparities. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you very much, Jill, and thank you everybody for coming. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. Okay, so what I thought I would speak with you about tonight is the very wide array of careers that are available in the information sciences, particularly ones that have a foundational layer of information behavior, which is my field. So we're going to start by just talking about what is information behavior. So welcome everybody. We're going to look at a sampling of information science careers that have a really central thread of information behavior underlying their roles and responsibilities. So information behavior really is just information plus any verb or not a verb. So I'll give you some examples. Seeking information, looking for it, using information, like applying it to get a job or something. That's information use. So it's information plus any verb, managing it, needing it, seeking it, sharing it, managing it, etc. But it also includes some really important behaviors that are kind of not a verb. So things like avoiding information. So my research really focuses on health information behavior, and it's not uncommon for people to avoid health information, especially if it's, upsetting or causes them to be anxious. Also, sometimes people have information, but they don't act on it. So it's called information non-use. So it incorporates all of that. So it's information plus any verb or not the verb. So you could be seeking it, you could be avoiding information, etc. So why does information behavior matter? Well, information behavior, like what information you go out and you look for and you're able to obtain and understand, that is going to affect your decision making. So if you're able to find good, trustworthy information that's relevant to you, you'll be able to make better decisions. And then decision making, of course, impacts your outcomes, whatever field we're talking about. And then often outcomes can lead us back into like a new information need or additional information seeking. So how does information behavior relate to information science careers? Whatever type of information science career you ultimately pursue, you'll definitely want to keep this question front and center in your mind. What things can do in order to minimize or even eliminate the many types of barriers that can prevent people from being able to effectively and efficiently access, understand, manage, and make use of information. So a lot of information science careers really are focused on this central question. I have a little bit of a case study. So if you consider this story, Lilia Musa, she just graduated from a Bachelor's of Science in Information Science program, and she job with Diamond Dungeon Games as a software developer and game designer. And luckily, in her senior year of her program, she did a thesis and she did an investigation into how gamers learn about and choose new video games to play, how they find other players to connect up with and perhaps play with them, what they like and what they don't like about games that they've played, and their ideas about like new kinds of games, games that don't yet exist, but they would love to play. And to do that, she interviewed 10 people who were playing a game, which I think is fake, I hope, called Viral Vengeance. And she conducted 3 focus groups as well with groups of gamers who were playing together. So each focus group was a set of players that tended to play this Viral Vengeance game together. And so through her thesis, she was able to hit this new job. She's able to hit the ground running at her new job because she was able to design and develop games that were a good fit for her target audience, because game development company that she worked for was developing games similar to Viral Vengeance. So she learned about the users and how did the users find out about games that they might like to purchase and players to play with, and what did they think of the games, what was fun, what wasn't fun. So she had a leg up. And these are just some of the many information behavior related topics that come, that relevant to that story we were just talking about with Lilia. So things like information seeking, selective exposure, being exposed to just certain information and not others, serendipity, just happening to find a new game. You were, maybe reading Reddit and you saw a post about Viral Vengeance or whatever game. So these are just some relevant concepts in information behavior to do with that story. And then a second case study, this is more of a cautionary tale. So Shamir landed a dream job last fall. He became a user experience designer for Retirement Living Today. And Retirement Living Today maintains a database of living facilities and activities for seniors. And people pay $30 a year to get access to that database. And it has information about, facilities and organizations that run activities for seniors. And people can add their comments about, hey, this was a great program, or this is facility, and they can read other people's comments. And over the years, this Retirement Living Today had built up a membership of about 500,000 people, and they were, of course, older folks, ages 62 to 95, averaging 76. So Shamir started his new job, and he immediately began redesigning the interface for the database because he felt it was far too simplistic and it didn't have a lot of the features that he would want in that database. And so he completely redesigned it. And when it was released, people were upset. The members were upset because they felt that the new design was not usable for them and that there were now so many features they couldn't find the ones they actually had found useful. And so some folks canceled their membership and wanted a refund. So the problem was that Shamir designed for himself rather than who the actual users were. And what he really needed to do was to learn about the users and make sure that he was fulfilling their needs and preferences, not what he would want, because he's definitely not their age range. So the next segment of this talk, we'll talk about some different career areas and job titles of information professionals that are in positions that really draw on information behavior. Okay, so okay, so I have a set of like 10 different, I think it's no, 7 different career areas. So the first career area is cybersecurity and information security. And if any of these like interest you, you might want to Google these phrases, either the area, the career area, or the specific job titles. So some examples of job titles in this grouping are below. The ones in bold on these slides are ones we're going to dig into deeper a little bit later in the talk. So we'll talk more about cyber defense technologist in a little bit. The second grouping is data analytics and data science. Lots and lots of jobs in this area, very hot and growing area. And bunch of job title examples, and we're going to talk more about data scientist and derivatives analyst a little bit later. And the next grouping is information technology, which is hugely broad, many titles. These are just some examples, and we'll talk about technical writers and web designers and web developers in a little bit. Okay. The next grouping is librarianship and content development, organization, and preservation. Again, lots of jobs in this field. It's another growing area. And included among this category are librarians of many different kinds: law librarian, young adult librarian, public librarian, archivists who preserve and provide access to primary source materials. You could many job titles in this grouping, but we'll talk specifically about digital curation specialists and young adult librarians. The next grouping is social media, which is another really hot and growing area. These are just some examples of how you might get involved in a career that involves social media, and we'll talk specifically about social media strategists out of this group. The next group is software development. And again, many different jobs in software development, very growing area. We'll talk specifically about software design analyst out of this grouping. And then the next grouping, user experience. So, what is it like for a user to make use of a software product, for example? And these are just some example job titles, and we'll dig into user experience specialist on this grouping. And then these are just some websites that you can find, lots of jobs of any type, but you can also find lots of information science jobs, information professional jobs, and many of them have an information behavior component where you're trying to learn about who you're trying to help in whatever way you're helping them, and tailor your help so that you can optimize your assistance for them. So these are just some job sites. Some of them, probably a lot of them look familiar to you guys. And so now we'll dig into the individual careers that were in bold on the earlier slides. So starting with cyber defense technologist, what cyber defense technologists do is they identify and try to address any privacy or security risks that threaten an agency or a company's information systems. And they also often design and build security solutions for their employers' systems or projects. And you'll notice with a lot of these positions, there are many contexts in which these folks might be hired. So it could be a company, it could be a government agency, it could be a school, but that's generally what these folks work on. When places are trying to hire cyber defense technologists, what they're often looking for is a BSIS, or bachelor's degree in information science, or information systems, information technology, cybersecurity, or some related degree. They also want the person they hire to have an in-depth understanding of computer hardware and operating systems, and to have an awareness of potential vulnerabilities and security solutions. And how is this related to information behavior? To do a good job in this role, you need to know how and why people are engaging with information systems. That'll help you to do the best job you can with identifying potential privacy and security risks, and designing and developing new security solutions. That link, if you just Google CyberSeek Career Pathway Tool, that provides a really nice picture of a whole career path that you might start out as this job title and then become, advance to this. this. It's a really, really helpful tool if you're interested in working in cyber technology. That's definitely worth checking out. So the second job title that we'll look at is a data scientist. Data scientists, at their very root, they tend to gather, organize, analyze, interpret, and mine data to come up with important conclusions, important insights. And again, these are data scientists are hired across many different kinds of organizations. And what they're generally looking for when they're wanting to hire a data scientist, generally they want a bachelor's degree in math, statistics, engineering, computer science, or information science. They also want applicants to have an in-depth knowledge and experience with data analytics and UX design or user experience design. They want the person to know statistics usually. They would like the person to be able to hypothesize and spot emerging trends. Experience in machine learning is definitely a plus. Proficient in and experienced with programming languages, particularly Python, R, SQL, and VBA, which I'm not a programmer, but I think that might be Visual Basic, but I'm not sure. And then experience using data visualization tools such as Tableau and Click. And again, this job title, this job area definitely relates to information behavior. Frequently, the data scientists are trying to hypothesize, identify, and visualize trends in really big data sets. And sometimes they might actually be asked to focus on trends in people's information behaviors. So, thinking about a company trying to sell a product, they probably are going to look at, the people who buy the product and also the people who don't buy their product and learn more about them so that they can tailor their product to them and or market to them better. So the third one we'll look at is a derivatives analyst. These folks use mathematical formulas and build descriptive and predictive statistical models and computer algorithms to try and detect trends in financial data and identify potential opportunities for investment. They usually work with portfolio managers, risk managers, brokers, traders, and technology teams. When companies are hiring for a derivatives analyst, they often want a bachelor's degree in accounting, finance, math, business, or information technology. They also like candidates to have experience with particular computer programs and languages, especially Excel with an in-depth knowledge of macros in Excel, SQL, VBA, and Python. And again, a derivatives analyst, that position is also really rooted in information behavior. A person in that position can do a better job if they have an in-depth understanding of the information needs, the information seeking strategies, et cetera, of their coworkers, their managers and investors. So one example is a common responsibility for derivatives analysts is to prepare reports for management. And in order to make sure that that report is useful for their manager, it's going to definitely help if the analyst finds out the manager's information needs, their information related preferences. And derivatives analysts can also make sure that their statistical models and computer algorithms are optimized by taking into account variables related to the different stakeholders' information needs and information behaviors. The fourth job we'll look at is technical writer. Technical writers try to communicate very complex information in a clear and a simplified manner. And they often produce some type of end product, such as an online help feature for a piece of software, for example, perhaps an instruction manual, an online user guide, or sometimes a grant proposal. People who are hiring technical writers tend to want a bachelor's degree in English, journalism, communications, computer science, or information science. They also want candidates who have experience with writing, proofreading, and editing technical documentation. And And this one really has very important ties to information behavior, because technical writers definitely need to understand the product they're writing about, but they also really importantly have to know about the audience that they're writing for. What does this audience already know? What are the jargon that the audience already understand, etc. So they need to know about the target audience's needs, their goals, their pre-existing knowledge, and their prior relevant experiences. And they use this information to make sure that their instructions are tailored to and therefore understandable, usable, and useful for these particular individuals or groups of people. The fifth position, web designer or web developer. Commonly, web designers use graphic design software such as Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator to design websites that are user-friendly and appealing to users. Web developers use programming languages such as HTML, JavaScript, and Python to build functional websites. And commonly, when companies or other types of hiring organizations are looking for a web designer or a web developer, they want a bachelor's degree in computer science or an HCI, which is human computer interaction, information technology, information science, information management, or design. And they also want candidates who are familiar and experienced with particular software packages and programming languages, whatever the organization uses. And both of these are really tied to information behavior, because web designers and web developers have a really important impact on the accessibility, usability, usefulness, and the aesthetic appeal of websites for the target audiences. And in turn, the ways in which the websites have been designed and built shape people's information behaviors and impact whether or not the user is going to be able to successfully achieve their goal with a minimum of effort. And websites that support people's actual information behaviors and facilitate their ability to reach their goals will attract repeat visitors. So it's important to do this well, to do this job well. Sixth position, digital curation specialists. These folks tend to work on organizing, managing, preserving, providing, and facilitating access to various types of digital assets. And they work in a variety of different kinds of organizations, including libraries, archives, museums, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and businesses such as healthcare and technology companies. When places are looking to hire a digital curation specialist, generally they're looking for a master's degree in library science or a master's degree in library and information science. And people who have received the bachelor's, the bachelor's of science and information science, or BSIS, are really well positioned to apply to these MLS and MLAS programs, which are two-year programs. And then again, this is really has important connections to information behavior. So digital curation specialists, they can't do their job without knowing about their actual and potential users' information needs and how they go about looking for information. It would be difficult to do their job without knowing about their users, because it affects their decisions as to which materials they'll select for preservation, to keep accessible into the future, and how they facilitate users access to the materials, and also how they go about training them to be able to retrieve and make use of, and sometimes even contribute their own materials to the repositories. And digital curation specialists also need to know the motivations and goals of their users, so that they can pick the materials and dedicate their time to the materials that will best meet people's needs. So 7, young adult librarian. So in my teaching, I often work with a lot of aspiring young adult librarians. I teach in our MLIS program, the Masters of Library and Information Science, and I also teach in our BSIS, Bachelors of Information Science programs. But with my MLIS hat on, I've worked with a lot of people who want to be young adult librarians. Commonly, they work in public or school libraries, and they focus on the needs and interests of teens. And they engage in activities such as selecting and purchasing materials that are targeted toward teens. They also recommend books and ebooks to individual teens. They might help out with answering reference questions, help teen visitors to the library to use computers and other technologies. They also sometimes provide homework help and design, develop, and run programs and services that are specifically targeted to young adults within their local communities. So for young adult librarians, frequently public and school libraries are looking for the candidate to have an MLS or MLIS, so they're masters in library science. And again, people who earn the BSIS are really well positioned to do that as their next step, go into an MLS or MLIS program. And the qualifications that libraries often look for, they want people who are energetic, who are knowledgeable about library technologies and the offerings for young adults, who are aware of teens' interests and needs and the types of challenges that they face in their lives, who are familiar with the young adult literature, and who are passionate about advocating for, engaging, serving, and supporting teens in their local communities. And you can probably already see already that this has huge ties to information behavior. So if you're trying to serve and advocate for teens in your community, you need to be familiar with the teens in your communities or schools and develop and keep up to date a knowledge of their information needs, their interests, their information preferences, their information seeking habits. And this knowledge really needs to be foundational to everything the librarian does, informing all of their decisions. Because in order to be the most helpful to these teens, they need to know about them. They need to know, who are they? What are they? What are their goals? What do they need? What information do they need? How can I best provide it to them? In what format? So the eighth job title, sample job title, is social media strategist. What these folks do is design and implement strategies to try and reach target customers or other types of audiences through various social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And as with the other positions, a variety of types of organizations hire people in this role. So social media strategists work in companies, libraries, colleges, universities, nonprofits, etc. And often sought out qualifications for social media strategists are a bachelor's degree in English, journalism, marketing, communications, computer science, information science, or business. They often want the candidate to have extensive knowledge about marketing and about current social media channels and who's using them, the audiences, and experience using relevant technologies, including Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. And this is another position that really has clear ties to information behavior. So in order to develop strategies that are the most effective for targeting particular groups of people, social media strategists need to know what platforms those folks are turning to and whether they're trying to find or share information on those platforms. And just knowing about the information needs, the information preferences, the information seeking strategies of target groups enable social media strategists to identify what is the most likely to be successful strategies and channels for reaching out to and engaging with particular audiences. So the ninth one, software design analyst. This is a type of job where you can have a wide range of roles, but some examples of common roles. working with end users and perhaps coworkers in some cases to determine their needs, and then building on this information, design software that's tailored to those needs, or work with people to identify problems with existing software and try and design improvements to that software, to maybe add features or improve the functionality. Sometimes software design analysts work with stakeholders across a long period of time, ensuring that any new software or any redesigns of existing software are effectively meeting people's needs and enabling them to reach their goals. And software design analysts often work with teams of developers, bridging between end users and developers to make sure that the product that gets developed actually does meet the user's needs. Folks who hire a software design analyst, generally they want a bachelor's degree in computer science or computer engineering, which is highly tied to information science. So I would think an information science degree would also help you get to this type of position. Experience using relevant technologies such as Oracle, PL SQL, and .NET. Again, this position has really important roots in information behavior. So software design analysts work with software users to understand their needs and goals before they actually do the designing. That was the problem, right, with Shamir, that Shamir didn't take the time to learn who was using that database, and he just redesigned it as if he was the target audience, which he was not. They also often interview existing or potential users about their information needs, their information preferences, how they go about seeking information, and their goals for using the software. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to get done? They also sometimes observe users using the software in order to see, is there a good fit between the software and the user's needs and their goals, and to try and identify any barriers that the users are encountering. And then they use this knowledge to tailor and optimize their designs or redesigns of software to best meet users' needs and goals. And then the last sample career is user experience specialist, or UX specialist. Commonly, people in this role conduct user experience research, which is finding out, what is it like to be a user of X product? Is this product, is it usable? Is it useful? Is it fun? Is it hard to use, etc.? And so they tend to work directly with users to determine what their needs are, their goals, and then what challenges they're facing when they try to reach their goals. And then they draw on that information to design or redesign different kinds of products. They also work on ensuring that products are accessible, they're usable, and they're useful for the target audiences. And they also tend to work with users over a long period of time to make sure that things are useful to them, and that any redesigns are not impacting that negatively. So places that hire UX specialists, they tend to want a bachelor's in human computer interaction, human factors, cognitive psychology, computer science, information systems, or graphic design. They also tend to want the candidate to have experience with user-centered design or with user experience development or testing. And this is another career path, another job title that has really important connections to the field of information behavior. So in order to make sure that a product's going to be a good fit for its intended users, UX specialists need to know what their target users' needs are and how they tend to go about seeking and interacting with and making use of information. And really, user-centered design is all about keeping the user at the very center in any decisions you make regarding the design of software or whatever product. So the more you know about your user, and all of their different information needs and information behaviors, the better able you're going to be to design a product or improve on an existing product that's accessible, usable, and useful for them. Okay, so to wrap up, crucially important threads of information behavior really infuse many of the different careers that make up the information professions. The information professions hugely broad. There's many different job titles and career paths in the information professions. Information professionals have to have an in-depth and up-to-date understanding of people's information needs, their information preferences, their information behaviors in order to be successful at carrying out their job and maximizing the positive impact that they can have on people's lives, helping people to reach their goals more effectively and more efficiently. And an understanding of one's target users is a really important complement to the technical skills. If you only have the technical skills, but you don't know about the users and you don't know about information behavior, you're missing half of the equation. And so what can happen is that if you don't know about the population you're trying to serve or engage with a product, there's a potential that you could develop something that, though it's functional, it actually is of no interest or use to the people you're trying to help. And so it's really a really important component of these jobs to learn about the people and to learn about their information behaviors. So we have a handout that we will either send to you or upload. This presentation is actually based on one of the chapters in our recent book that we just published this in March. And one of the sections in there is a list of career guides, and it's broken down by these categories that we were just talking about, like cybersecurity, data analytics, et cetera. And there's many career guides in each section. So if you wanted to, pursue different books and learn more about social media careers, there's a list of books in that section. And we'll be happy to provide that handout. But I wanted to ask, are there any questions? Oh, thank you, Jill. Jill put the handout in the chat here. Thank you.
I'm also more than happy to send a follow-up email.
Thank you. So what kinds of careers are you all interested in? Ooh, that's a good one for Jill. The fieldwork component in the MLIS degree.
Michelle, I'm more than happy to send you a separate email about that if you leave your email in the chat or private message it to me.
Cool. Let's see, map librarians. That's interesting. That's a career I really don't know anything about. I had a friend that was really interested in old maps and he collected old maps, but man, that sounds really interesting to be a map librarian. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I have an activity if people are interested in doing that, but you can also do it at home. The idea, I'll share my screen and show you the activity. This one, I think. So the idea behind the activity is to use one of those resources that we were looking at earlier, the list that had like diversity jobs and what else? Indeed, and had a lot of different resources on there that you might use to find jobs. So use one of those tools and find a job ad that's as close as possible to your dream job, what something you would really love doing, and then to look through the job ad and kind of analyze what is the company or the organization's mission, their description of the position and the roles and the responsibilities that that person will fulfill, what the qualifications are and the preferred qualifications, and then the idea is to share your job ad. What's the title of the job and the company or organization you would be working for, and then what content in the job ad seem to have this roots of information behavior and why, and then to think about like how would your knowledge of information behavior, which if I think probably many of you might be pursuing or interested in pursuing a BSIS or an MLIS, and you'll definitely get familiar with information behavior. It's a course in both programs, and so to think about like how might your knowledge of information behavior enable you to do a better job in this particular position. But you can certainly do this at home. See. Getting more information about information science type positions. Do you find informational interviews helpful, or are there alternatives? That's an interesting question. I think informational interviews are really helpful, and we have from time to time like job fairs where employers come and you can meet with them, and it's low key. It's you go to this big room in the Stamp, although I don't know this year, but in the student union, and you get to meet with employers and just chat about them, like chat with them about the jobs and what they're looking for. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Robert, so thank you. That's a great question. So what types of research methods do you use to study information behavior? So me personally, I study consumer health information behavior, which is all about how patients look for health information or avoid health information. And I've worked with kids. I've also worked with older adults who have type 2 diabetes, to learn more about with the folks who have diabetes, like how did they learn how to manage the disease? And with that study, I used a variety of research methods. I had a questionnaire. I also did interviews. I did some card sorting as well, asking people to take cards that had sources on them and then put them into buckets based on how useful they were to them, like other people who have diabetes or the doctor, and basically do a card sort, so I could see like what information was most useful to them. I also did a timeline exercise where I asked people to draw a timeline of their journey with diabetes. And then working with kids, we started an after school program for middle school students here in Prince George's County, and we ran it in 5 different schools. And the goals behind it were to work with the kids to improve their like health related self-efficacy. This idea that I can have an effect on my health. That health doesn't just happen. Of course, there are certain things that do, but there are also things that you can do to shape your health. And so we were trying to improve their health related self-efficacy, but more particularly, we were working on their digital health literacy skills. So how do you get on Google and find quality information that you can trust and act on? And so in our Hack Health program, we used a wide variety of methods. We used observation. We actually sat with the children and watched as they surfed the net, and we saw where did they go. A lot of them went to YouTube videos, which that hadn't occurred to me before, to get health information there. there, but it was definitely a source for them. So we did observation, we did surveys, we did focus groups with both the children and their parents. And throughout the program, the kids picked whatever topic they wanted, some topic that they wanted to research in health. And what they tended to pick was a disease that either they had or like a relative, a parent, a sibling. And then throughout the program, we would sit with them as they were researching and, take notes about what we were seeing. And then they took what they had learned and they created some type of end product. Some of them created plays, some of them created newscasts, some of them did PowerPoints or Prezzies, some of them did interpretive dances on their topic, some of them did songs, like they rewrote the lyrics to songs and sung about like thyroid problems, and it was super interesting. And at the end of the program, we invited the kids and their parents to come to campus, and that's where we did the focus groups with them to ask, like, how did the program go and was it helpful? And we also gave tours of the campus, because a lot of the kids that joined Hack Health was the name of our program. A lot of the kids who joined really wanted to go to University of Maryland when they grew up. So they were really excited to be on campus. But we used a wide set of methods. We used surveys, we used observation. What else? We did interviews, we did focus groups. We even did one sort of a field experiment. We wanted to know, like, if we wanted to see if kids, like, pre-existing beliefs on a topic impacted how they went about searching on that topic. So we took like health myths, like eating too much sugar causes diabetes, or cell phones cause brain cancer, that kind of thing. And then we asked the kids to look it up, and we asked them beforehand, like, what they already thought the answer was. And then we saw what their searches looked like. And it was super interesting. Like, some of the kids didn't even search. They said, well, I already know the answer to that, even though it was incorrect, but they didn't even to do the search. So we did do one field experiment, but we used a bunch of different methods. Thank you for the question. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. I wish you the best in all of your schoolwork and applications and everything. Take care.